Hello everyone, our PowerPoint is over how some animals are toxic. I'm Keenan LaRiviere.
I'm Evie Mendez.
I'm Dante Gator.
Our first slide is over snakes. The anatomy of snakes, which allows them to inject venom from their glands into their prey, is fangs. Tapered fangs are longer than other species, which allows them to have deep tissue penetration. However, in earlier evolutionary stages, fangs weren't even developed. They presented as small, shallow grooves that provided more surface area for teeth adhesion, since they had shallow roots. Later on, the roots deepened and helped form the tube-like hollow structures. These fangs were hollow to act as needles and deliver venom. About the coastal titan, their venom seems to have been presented before their fangs and evolved to function together. Their venom glands are located on either side of their head and contain typoxin. The toxin disrupts prey's nervous system and may cause myelolysis, which is damaging to muscle tissue. The anatomical features is to protect or aid in capturing food. These snakes would prefer to sneak away. However, if threatened, they will take a loose striking stance. How do you think that the snake would make itself look more intimidating? Right. They make themselves look bigger by spreading their body and jaws laterally. Since they are lightweight and muscular, they are able to strike with speed. Their method of attack is more commonly known as snap and release. With their agility, multiple strikes are made in a short amount of time. During these strikes, the fangs are bright slightly forward to engage and disengage quicker. These snakes keep distance between them and their prey to avoid injury. In some cases, the snakes are known to let prey go and hunt them down later.
Moving on to salamanders. Salamanders, a lot of them can secrete toxins through their skin, which makes them poisonous. And this is done mainly through the granular glands, which are along the skin, as you can see the blue circle on the right in the second photo, and the parotid glands, which are these two bulbous glands on the back of their heads, and it is the left circle in the right photo. Now, the granular glands are a bit different from the mucus glands. In the photo on the left, the thing titled MG is a mucus gland, and you can see it's a lot smaller than the granular glands, which are titled GG1. Now, granular glands make their toxin not within the gland itself, but actually on the lining of the gland around it. And then the gland itself acts to store the toxin and then release it into the skin. Right, so where did these parotid and granular glands actually come from? You can pause the video if you need to think of an answer. Um, Alright, the parotid glands actually evolved from the salivary glands. So they were originally just for producing saliva, but eventually they became producers of toxins over time. While the granular glands, they likely evolved from mucus glands in the skin, but we actually aren't 100% sure yet, so maybe one day that's a question you can answer. And lastly, how did the venom itself evolve? Again, pause the video if you need, take a few moments to think amongst yourselves. So the compounds that make up venom actually came from a variety of organs, like the liver, the intestines, and even the brain in some cases. And these molecules had other uses in these organs, but due to a genetic mutation where these molecules were accidentally expressed in the salivary glands or the skin glands, they actually showed toxic abilities when expressed there. And these toxic abilities obviously helped the salamander live longer and reproduce more. So its offspring then also had this trait of having toxic skin glands, and this only furthered with time as the proteins themselves became more and more toxic. Lastly, the tail and parotid areas have more granular glands than the rest of the body, and when threatened, salamanders show these parts to predators in a pose called an Unken reflex. Now, the reason for this being is quite straightforward. There's more toxins in the tail because if an animal is chasing a salamander and the salamander is running away, the predator is more likely to bite the tail as that is the closest body part to it. And say if a predator gets the jump on an animal, on a salamander via a sneak attack, it's gonna most likely want to go for the head for a quick kill. So that's also why there's a higher amount of toxins in the head.
Cool. So I'm going to be talking about catfish spines. So the barbs on the dorsal and the pectoral fins are venomous. So these are the two kind of like spine looking things that are sticking out at each side of the catfish. Those things actually ooze venom, and they do this through the venom glands, which are found alongside the sharp and bony spines on the edges of the dorsal and pectoral fin. Um, with the origin of these spines, they're usually, or people think that they came from the secreted toxins that the catfish once had in a more prehistoric age. But we're not completely sure on that. There's research going on in Michigan State to figure out how, these things derived. But this is a defense mechanism that the catfish uses to warn off predators or, if captured, to fend themselves. Okay, so hopefully this hasn't happened to you, but once the barb does enter into the skin, it is extremely painful. Just through injection, because it's a violent motion, it's not very slow or anything. The edges are serrated as well. Um, so once it gets entered, the membrane around the venom gland, it tears and releases the venom. So kind of the fin itself tears and sticks out. And once it injects itself into you, it, kind of inflames and you feel this sudden pain, this rush of agony. And what's going on in your blood system is your red blood cells are being broken down, and it's kind of destroying your nerves as well. Again, these are very painful processes, nothing you want to go through. And it's not the initial injection, nor is it the venom that is potentially dangerous or fatal or anything. But because since we have a good filtering out mechanism for our immune system, it's not that harmful to us. But it's the infection, the fungal infections, it's the disease, the wounds. It's what comes after this opening due to all the toxins and dirt, because these are bottom feeder fish. They could be having a lot of dirt and bacteria on them that could potentially lead to a more serious injury.